Well, welcome back to another Blunt Force Business. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
And today we're going to talk about how email's dead.
We're not going to talk about how email's dead, Brian.
I buried the lead. No, we're going to talk about the exact opposite. Today we're going to talk about email marketing.
All right, we talk a little bit about email marketing. Again, it's another subject that we could talk about for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. There's advanced versions, but I think the idea that you should be doing it if you're not doing it, and the importance of it to a certain extent. And we're going to touch on a couple of things.
All right, awesome. And yeah, I mean, like any topic as we delve into it, what I like about what we're doing here today is this is definitely, I don't want to say intro to email marketing because most of our listeners might already be doing it,
right.
But it's an overview of, hey, how are we doing it correctly?
Right,
like
or there's just some things
stuff
to think about. Right?
Yeah,
things that
absolutely.
will help keep you on the path, and some whys.
On the path.
Some whys. A little bit of whys.
I feel like email has taken a back seat to social media because social media gets just so much attention.
Right.
It's like anything that's trending.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool. You got the new, you got to be on TikTok, and I got to be, because I like the Chinese, and wow, they track me, and got to make that happen.
Right.
I got to be on Instagram, and
right.
And it gets so much attention. And email's been around a lot longer.
Right.
It's the first form of digital communication. And so sometimes it definitely takes that, like...
Or if you're a person of a certain age, you remember when you didn't have email.
Yeah.
And then you remember when you had email, and it was great. And then you remember just going like, oh, my God, I have too much email.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So you go through those phases,
yeah.
And then you think, okay, well... And then you become a business owner, or you're working in a business, and your job is to email people, and then you're all worried. You're like, oh, am I the person who's, do we really need to do this? Do people not want email? Like, the whole thing. And I think, like, one of the things I always bring up because a lot of the times, if I'm consulting with a business, they probably aren't email marketing.
They're not.
They probably aren't. If I'm consulting with them, they probably aren't, because their business is probably successful, but they're not really doing it a lot or enough.
Right. And
it's usually because, again, it's because of a perception.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be annoying or whatever it is. But we'll talk about maybe
I had low-hanging fruit there about you being annoying and being a nice guy.
Sorry, man. I moved right on.
Yeah, that's all right.
But our first blunt force fact for email marketing is that email addresses are gold.
They are gold.
You know what I mean by that?
I think I know what you mean. I mean, I think what the reality is, it's like someone giving you the key to their front door. Right. It's like saying, hey, you can reach out and touch me whenever you want.
You can't help yourself.
Can't say that.
You always go there.
You can't say that.
I mean, you can certainly say it. You said it.
I did say
it. Yeah.
All right.
But
it's open.
But no, I mean, I think one of the things that, again, you talk about social media and all that stuff is really, really important. Like, you have to have an email address.
Right. And
everybody has to.
Yeah. And even just to add to that point, and then I want you to roll, but when you think about social media, 99% of the stuff we do on social media is not direct touch. It's like the difference between email and social media. We can relate it back to the hunting video we did with finances. If I'm hunting with social media, I'm hunting with a shotgun with buck spray. Right. Right. And I'm just putting it out there and hoping the pellets hit. If I'm hunting with email, I very much can hunt with a sniper rifle. Right. I can target this much more. It's much easier. Right. Right. To do that.
Realistically, they should be complementary. Right.
But absolutely.
Starting point being is that everybody has to have an email address. Like, you have to have an email address to sign up for social media. You have to have an email address to have an Apple ID. You have to have an email address. If you're a kid at school, they have email addresses right out of the gate to access Google Classroom or whatever it is, right? Yep. So everyone has an email address.
We're not marketing to middle school, are we?
No, we're not. But everybody has an email address. Some people have email addresses. Some people have email addresses if you're marketing to younger adults. Some of them have their college email address and they keep it. Yep. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody has an email address. So it's like one of those touch points. Not everybody has an Instagram account. Not everybody has a Facebook account. Not everybody's on TikTok, right? But like, the percentage of people that has an email address is almost higher than anything else.
And we need to get it.
Right. And we want to get it because there's a bunch of different ways that we can use it. One is obviously reaching out to people. Yeah. So we can send them emails. Another reason is looking, because what you can do is with these other advertising platforms is you can build either audiences that you can target with ads, or you can build what we call lookalike audiences, right? So a lookalike audience in Facebook or in Google or whatever it is that we have a customer base, an existing customer base.
Yeah.
Right? And we know that these people buy from us. But we want to sell to other people. And one of the ways that we can do that is by using people's email addresses who are already customers and we already have a history of purchases with.
Yep.
And we could send them to these big tech companies who know everything about these people. And what they do is they build networks based on the likes, the interests, the search histories of all the people that we send them. So if we send them a bunch of email addresses, they're going to look at Brian's email address. They're going to know what social media platforms he's on. They're going to know how many kids he has, how old he is, his search history, all the things he's interested in, things he's bought in the past. What they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, if we want to market to somebody who's like Brian, we know other people who have similar interests in whatever, right? And we can do that. But that all comes from having your email address.
Yeah, it is amazing what people can dig in with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and then the other cool thing about email addresses, and this is similar with social media in that once they follow you, they might drop off. But one of the things with social media is you really are kind of the slave to the algorithm. So if there's an algorithm change, or if there's other networks that are performing better, or if there's other social media accounts that you're following that perform better, now all of a sudden your posts are farther and farther and farther down in someone's feed to the point where they're not seeing them.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas your email address is getting to their box.
Yep.
Until they unsubscribe.
Yeah. It's a direct line.
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna, they're gonna see you. So it's just really important. There's very few, if any. I mean, obviously there's a lot of people who are really good at social media who never have to worry about collecting email addresses. But there's very few businesses that aren't heavily interested in your email address. Very few.
The other piece, you can tie it to sales too, because the research is glaringly obvious that it's way easier to sell to someone who already bought from you once and to get a new client.
Right.
So having, what I always, startup business wise, a lot of startups that, they're going out, they're promoting their stuff. Some startups are attending these fairs and things like that where they're sitting down, they got a booth and they're selling. And I'll say all the time, oh, great, you made 40 sales today. Who? Well, I don't know. I just took the cash and gave them the thing. But, okay, so let's change that, right? You need to find a way that anytime you touch someone or talk to someone or anything, that you're making every effort to grab that email, grab a way to reach back out again, right? And capture that. So we give them a lot of tips and tricks to how to do that. When they buy something, if they're not buying with a credit card, you offer, say, hey, listen, we offer coupons for people who return customer. Can I get your email? Send it to you after the sale, whatever it might be.
Or you're just at a good company. You're at a good company. Do you have an email address on file?
Yeah.
Or what they ask, what's the email address on file?
Yeah.
Right, and that's psychologically, if you haven't given it yet, maybe you'll give it to them.
Absolutely.
And then there's other things follow us on social media, but also a lot of people asking for phone numbers too for text messaging purposes or whatever.
Yep.
But that email address is super.
Email's easier because, as you and I both know, you can send an email to anyone. When you start getting into text messaging people, it's a lot more difficult to get a subscriber list that will allow you to text.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So there's more rules around the SMS stuff. But
I like the email is gold.
First fast is email is gold. So if you're not collecting email addresses, you have to find a way to do it. Not have to, should. Right? Should. So it's like anything. There's companies that are successful without having email addresses, but most successful companies are utilizing email for this reason.
Yes.
They have your email address because they can reach out to you and because it's worth in other areas, especially in remarketing, retargeting, developing lookalike audiences, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's a great one.
Should we move on to blunt force fact number 2?
We can definitely move on to blunt force fact.
So we had a little debate about this one. This is going to be a recurring blunt force fact in some of the things I talk about. But blunt force fact number 2 for our email marketing today is you're not that important.
That hurts.
You're just not that important.
I know, and that hurts.
Do you remember why we?
I do. I do. One of the biggest debates we have about email marketing is, am I going to overwhelm people?
Right.
How much should I do it? And there's also the too little.
Right.
Which is a epic fail.
Which
right?
is we're going to emphasize that here.
Yeah. The worst thing you could do is just not be there enough that they are seeing you and you're front and center. Before we go into it, one of the things when we were talking about this, I think about there's this clothing company. I am below the average height. I know it doesn't look that from the video, but I'm slightly below the average height.
I think I'm just like Joe Average.
When you look at these videos, you look like Giant Man. Mainly that's because I'm a little below the average height. So clothing is difficult for me. Most things I get have to be tailored, and shirts are too long. There's a great company out there. A little expensive, they're on the cheaper end, but Ash and Erie, something like that's called. And they are in my face.
Clearly not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor yet. They're in my face at least once a day in every medium.
Right.
Email, social media, things like that. And you might say, well, is that frustrating or annoying? And the reality is it's not.
Because you want to hear from them.
And if I don't want to hear from them in that day,
right.
I just delete it.
Right.
Okay, but I will tell you, by them being there every day, once a week I click on it.
Right.
And once a week I'm like, oh, what do they got?
Right.
What am I, if I'm going to buy something. So whenever I'm in the mode of purchase, it's there.
Right.
And that marketing strategy is fantastic because they're not that important.
Right.
And I can easily get rid of them.
Right.
The reality, right? And people can easily get rid of our email. They can get rid of your email, right? Like, it's easy. You just click it, right? You say delete for today. I'm not that's not what I want right now.
Right.
But when they do want that, the way to be in line.
You have to be there.
Yeah, you got to be there to be in line. And
you have to be there when people are ready for you.
Yep.
And I think that the biggest challenge in anything, you watch the news or whatever, like we're in the digital attention economy, right? Everything's about attention. Everything's about your limited time. Here's how much time you have. Here's how much time you spend on your screens. And now you have all these things competing for it. All these millions of social media companies, millions of companies that have your email address, people texting you, your regular life, your regular job. Yep. All those things are all competing for your attention. And to have the gall as a small business or like an entrepreneur and say, well, maybe I'm bothering them too much. Like, they don't even know who you are. Like, right. They're focused on, or like in Brian's case, like he's focused on this one company that he really likes.
Yeah.
So the other things are not getting his attention.
They're not.
And it's either because it is for a bunch of different reasons, but one reason is maybe they're not reaching out as often as this company. Or maybe just at this particular time, you are looking for clothes. And so this is what you're focused on.
And whenever I am looking for clothes, they're there.
They're there, right? But the idea is that you're really not as you're not as important as you think you are.
Yeah,
right? You're really in the day-to-day life of a person.
Yep.
You're not important. But the challenge is being there enough so that when they are ready to engage with you, you're there. So 9 times out of 10, nobody's emailing too much. Almost everybody's emailing too little.
Yeah.
Right? Because
and the reason they don't, you would say one of the big reasons they don't is they fear like,
their freaking inbox is full and they're not gonna want to hear from me.
I'm gonna bother them.
I just emailed them a couple days ago. Yeah. Like they're not gonna want to hear from me. And it's just not true.
You're just not that important.
You're just not that important. You're not that big of a deal in their life.
Yeah.
That you're annoying them. Really, you're just like, maybe they engaged with you one time and gave you their email address and that's it. Can you be too annoying? Yes, but it's the exception.
Right.
It's the exception, and it will lead us to blunt force fact number 3, but just to stay on number 2 is just, I think that just in general with marketing, which is why it's going to come up more often, is that you're not that important. Social media, email marketing, TV advertising, radio advertising, whatever it is, right? Your Coca-Cola, your Budweiser, they're freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're not that important. Right? It's like, how often do you have a Coke? I mean, obviously if you're a person of a certain age, probably not that often. Right. But it's like, if they're not doing it so frequently that you don't just subconsciously remember it, then you will never remember it.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the same thing with our email marketing. We're competing with all of them too.
Yeah.
It's like my business is I sell little crafts. Mm-hmm. I'm not competing with Coca-Cola. Well, you are, because Coca-Cola is advertising all the time. So you're in that attention environment, and you just aren't as important as them, or you are at the right time. But like, if you're not everywhere all the time as often as you can be, then you're nowhere. Yeah. And so in the email marketing world, you just have to be aggressive about it. Because you're not as important as you think. You're not annoying them. You're not as important as you think you are.
Yeah, and to just add one thing to that point, I think as long as you can provide something of value each time, right? So what would be annoying, overwhelming, and you still wouldn't be that important, but someone be like, all right, enough. If every day I sent the same email for 5 days straight, that would be annoying. Right. That would be something that might get me unsubscribed from, right? But if every day, and that's what that clothing company does, they're like, check out the new button downs we got. Next day it's, have you seen our new chino colors? The next day. So it's different.
Well, that's to a point. Like, I wonder if you did an experiment. We're not going to do that right now. Yeah. But if you did an experiment and you actually looked at what you were getting. Yeah. I wonder if it really is different every single time.
I'm sure a lot of it is the same.
Yeah, because you're seeing like sometimes you see the same commercial twice in a row. Yeah. It's like they're reinforcing that. They are assuming that maybe you didn't see it the first time. Right. And if you think about the times that you remember that you saw it twice, how many times did you not know that they did it twice?
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is changing your packaging. Right. No, changing their packaging
and what I'm trying to say is that there's a value in repeating yourself and repurposing. Yes. Right. Using the same thing over and over again. Because like one thing we do a lot is we'll do like an email in the morning and an email in the evening. Yes. They'll be the exact same email. Yeah. But you don't know that because in the morning you were busy. Yeah. And you didn't see it. Yeah. Or in the evening you were busy and you had already seen the morning one. Yeah. Or you saw both, and it took seeing both for you to even imprint it in your head that you saw
hey, I need to look at that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's value to a mix. There's value to reusing and repeating yourself. But at the end of the day, when we start thinking about being too repetitive and being too annoying, we usually aren't.
I did an email campaign about the free programming that we were offering at the time, right? The business growth programming. And I sent one, and then a couple days later, I sent the next one, and the one was, the first one title was, "You don't need free business consultation." Right. But, right?
Well, we have a whole discussion about
why would you take it? Yeah. And then the second
psychology
email was,
and how it gets open and stuff like that.
Second one, right. That's more. But the second one was the same content. It was like, you still don't need. So I just added "you still" in front of it, right? Same concept, little repurposed. The second one got more openings than the first one did. Right. Yeah, for your purpose, right? So I annoy people by bringing up the same topic more than once? No, I actually got more engagement.
Well, if we're speaking about really blunt force fact number 2, is you're not that important, is you are assuming that they saw both of those.
Exactly. Well,
and the reality is like one of the reasons you have
timing.
One of the reasons, you have to experiment with the day of the week. Like if let's say you send to your list every Tuesday, right? And then you switch up and send on a Thursday. Yeah. You probably have different people opening it. Yeah. Because like, let's say you send it a Tuesday at 11. Maybe a Tuesday 11, I have a meeting every Tuesday 11. Yeah. So that email comes in and it gets swamped by all my other emails and I don't see it. Right? Yeah. But on Thursday you send it at 11, I'm wide open that time and I see it come in. Right. Right. So you're already making the conscious assumption that they saw both of them.
That's a great point.
And the second one engaged them. Yeah. Right. But the reality is most people didn't see the first one.
Great point.
You don't know. Right. Because you're just assuming that you're really important. And
but
they really want to get this. And the reality is
I'm not that important.
Is that you're probably not that important.
Yeah. But I need to be in front of them a lot. Yeah. So bottom line, send more. Yeah. Don't send less.
Don't worry about the being annoying part because you're probably not that important to them.
What leads us to blunt force
But this is number 3 for sure.
Which is, what if they unsubscribe from me, Patrick?
Don't take the unsubscribes personally.
Is that blunt force fact number 3?
That is a blunt force fact number 3.
I take a lot personally.
Right. Because I know that when I send emails, I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I do and I look at the unsubscribes. Yeah. And some will unsubscribe that I care about.
And that hurts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, ooh. But I think that to speak to blunt force fact number 2 and 3 kind of in tandem is that people unsubscribe for a variety of reasons.
Right.
It's not just that they don't like you. Sometimes they don't like you. But sometimes it has nothing to do with not liking you.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, you know what? I'm swamped right now. I have 30 minutes in my day, and I just looked at my email, and I was just like,
I need to start cleaning this out.
I need to just clean it up, and they just go through everything they haven't read in a while, and they unsubscribe.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they'll never do business with you again.
Right.
It doesn't mean they don't remember you. It doesn't mean they don't follow you on social media. It just means that right now they just don't want that email.
The other point to that, too, is that when we focus on the unsubscribe, it's the equivalent of focusing on the 5% of people who complain.
Right.
Right. Now we're devoting all this time. You send out 1,000 emails, right? Your list is 1,000. You got one unsubscribe, and you're going to focus on that.
Right.
You know, but you do.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, I can't believe I do that all the time. I'll look at the email report, and I'm like, okay, this many open. I got a 40% open rate. That's fantastic. I got a 20% click rate. That's fantastic. 2 people unsubscribed, and I'm like, shit. Why then? Come on.
Right.
Come on. It's like sales.
Right.
You're gonna get no's. You know, it's not the end of the world, right? I can't let that. Now, if I have a 20% unsubscribe rate every week,
right? Well,
maybe I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. But even the 1s and 2s, you gotta let those go. Right. You gotta press forward, and you need to go back. You really
want to focus on the people who are not unsubscribed.
Absolutely.
Because you're probably providing a service to them, even if it's not what they need right now. But like, they at least have a positive enough impression, and they want to stay in touch so that when they're ready to buy, they're there. And like the good example is what you talked about with that clothing company. They're all over you all the time. There's no way that's the only company that's all over you all the time.
No.
There's no way. There's a bunch of companies they're doing the same thing. But the company that you remember is the one you're interested in.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of people that unsubscribe from that same thing that I love.
Yep.
Right? Because they're like, well, I am not like you, and I'm of average height. I don't need that company.
Well, no, or just like, I already bought my... I was looking for something specifically.
Yes.
I bought it.
Yeah.
And I'm all done.
First off, I really want to know the metric where they found me, right? Because somewhere in an algorithm, someone sold them my information, and I am listed as under. Their thing is like under 5'7".
Maybe it's because you talk about it all the time.
I don't know, but they're specifically, like, if you look at their thing,
Brian's
it's
like one of those
they're
guys
under 5'7". Is like that's who they tailor it to.
Short guy syndrome.
Some asshole sold them my information.
He's always worried about how he looks in the video next to Patrick, who's average size.
That's great.
But go back to the email thing. It's a similar thing. It's like if you focus too much on the unsubscribes, you're not going to focus on creating the good content. I mean, and again, like it's just like everything's a balance. It's like, can you send too many emails? You can. Too many unsubscribes would be a warning sign, right? But there's also industry standards. Just Google like, what's the average unsubscribe rate of a list? And you can see it's not 0.
Right. Not at all.
No. And if you're emailing if you don't email very often, your unsubscribe rate's going to be a little lower.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be, because they're not actually hearing from you that often, right?
Yeah, so don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but if you're emailing the right amount, you're probably going to have a higher subscribe rate because there are going to be those people who are just like, I'm all done with them for right now.
Right.
So they're going to find the one that you just sent, and they're going to unsubscribe one. But like the people who are subscribed are the people who are more loyal. They want to keep hearing from you. Maybe they're not ready to buy or whatever it is, but like they want to just keep you in the list, and when they're ready, they will.
Yeah.
And again, like I think it's like, we're all concerned about, are we hurting their feelings? Are we being too annoying or whatever it is? And the reality is like, you only really unsubscribe from people that you don't want to hear from.
Yeah.
Right? You're less likely to unsubscribe from the people that you do want to hear from. But there are those moments when you're just like...
I've done the inbox clean out. And there are companies that I like that I still use, and I unsubscribe for them just because I just got to the point I had to clean out. Yeah. And you know what? At the end of the day, the next time I bought from them, they were back in my inbox again.
Right. Or there is the chance, too, that you didn't... the reason why you're still a customer is because they did email you all those times. Yeah. And maybe you unsubscribed. Yeah. You're still going to go back to them.
Right.
But the fact that they hold your attention long enough is important. Yep. Right. So it's like, don't worry about them unsubscribing. There is a balance there, and we'll talk about some of that, I'm sure, in the future. Like, how do you keep your unsubscribes low? Like, what do you do? Can you have a strategy of, emailing certain engaged parts of your list or whatever it is? But like for now, it's like, don't really, don't take it personally because you want that email address. You want to be emailing them frequently. You're going to have some unsubscribes. You know what I mean? Focus more on the people that are there. Provide them good content. And don't worry about the few that unsubscribe. They might come back, or they might just not be your audience. They might not be the right people for you.
So for those of you listening, if you're not emailing regularly, get on it. Clear that is what we need to do. The blunt force.
If you're not getting email addresses, get them.
Get them because email is gold.
Number 2, email frequently because you're not as important as you think you are. And I can't remember. Was that the fact?
Yeah, the fact.
You're not that important. You're not that important.
Yeah.
And then number 3 is don't take the unsubscribes personally.
Awesome. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.